Europe, obviously, it's very easy to move in Europe. If you want to travel from one country to another, you don't need visas. Things are easy in Europe. Now, when it comes to chiropractic, it's very different than the States because chiropractic is very different country to country and has different rules country to country. In some countries, it's not even legal or not regulated. So every country is very different.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our Life by Life West. Today, of course, with me is my co-host and my partner in life, Dr. Mary Oberstein. Hey, Mary, how are you?
Okay. Good. How are you?
Good to see you. We could be totally in opposite ends of the world. You wouldn't know that, but usually we're in our respective abodes, at the college and at home. And we got two really great guests with us today. Someone that Mary was so excited to have on the show. Me too, of course, but she just has a very special bond with these two, and I do too. But they're just wonderful, wonderful chiropractors. They're in Spain right now. I'll just introduce you. We have Sebastian Ewaldh, and we have Dr. Clemence Hupays. I got that right. Oh my! I'm speaking French. I can't speak Swedish. Sebastian is from Sweden originally, and Clemence, right?
Sweden, yeah.
Yep. I think he speaks about 28,000 languages at last count. Clemence is from France, obviously, like we just said, and these guys are just doing phenomenal things in Europe. I'll give you just a brief rundown on them. Sebastian graduated from Barcelona College of Chiropractic in 2016. Clemence graduated from the Chiropractic College in Madrid, Spain in 2018. They met in 2015 at a wonderful program that you probably heard about called Chiro Europe. And from meeting in Chiro Europe as students, they started dating, and they've been together ever since. They ended up going to Portugal. I think right after your graduation, Sebi, you came to the States and did some seminars and kind of traveled around, and then went back, started up in Portugal. And then was it a year later, Clemence, that you came and joined the practice?
Yeah, about a year later. That's right.
Yep. And they were in Portugal for 5 years, 5 or 6 years. And now they're in Spain, in Mallorca, Spain, on their way. You'll hear about the journey, but on their way to going to France. And that's their ultimate destination. And you'd say, well, why did they go from Port? Why don't they just go straight north, right? Kind of do the trek straight north. They went to the east, but you'll hear that story in a second. But they're just doing phenomenal. And just besides that, you both are just wonderful people. You own chiropractic, you love chiropractic, and we'll kind of jump into your stories because I think that's super, super important. Mary, you want to start, or you want me to start?
I mean, I'll start.
Good.
I want to start right from the beginning. I want to start with the journey. And actually, the first question I have before we get to that is, how did you find chiropractic? Or how did chiropractic find you? What was your journey to just become a chiropractor?
So me, I started being a chiropractic patient at, I think I was 15. I got my first adjustment, but it was a very mechanical adjustment where it was, I came once a year and that was basically it. And then I was lucky enough that my poor brother fell on the ice, and and my mom said, like, I have a patient, because my mom is a physician, who is a new grad chiropractor. And we need to go with all of us. So we start going 3 times a week. This was when I was like 16, 17, and I was diagnosed with ADHD, hyperactivity. I was on, I think, 136 milligram of Concerta daily dose, which was like a lot of drugs and caused me a lot of anxiety as a kid or young kid. And within a few years, I was like, I didn't even need the medication. And I always knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was thinking about being a medical doctor or a veterinarian. But the problem with me is I hate blood, right? So, and then when I started being a chiropractic patient, I saw how everyone was happy. Even whatever they went through, even my mom, who was suffering a lot, when she was getting adjusted, she was happy. So I was like, wow.
So this all took place in Sweden then? The
chiropractic. So Sweden.
Yeah, very cool.
And then
Yeah, amazing.
Wow.
So then I went into chiropractic school.
Love it. Clemence, what's your story?
So the story started actually my late teens. At the time I was training, I've been training actually all my youth of my life to become a professional ballet dancer. So I was in a sports program, and obviously I know you guys in the States, you're really big about sports. So when you're into that kind of program, the only outcome is for you to become professional. So I had no idea. I had no plan B, C, D. For me, the only plan was to be a dancer. And a few months actually before I started auditioning for companies in France, I got really, really badly injured. I had a bad ankle. I could basically just do nothing. And I went to every single therapist under the sun in France, in Germany. I went to doctors, to physiotherapists, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And basically the only thing they recommended was for me to stop dancing. And because I'm very stubborn, that was not an option. So I continued. And one day, one of my friends actually suggested that I would come with her to her chiropractor because she had a visit, and she suggested I would come with her. And that's how it started. So I got adjusted there. After only a few weeks, I was back on track. I passed all my auditions, and a few days I got accepted actually into my dream school. And a few days before enrolling, I had that aha moment when I still remember I was walking in the street and I thought, this is crazy. This is crazy. I've been there struggling for years, and I go see that person who twists my neck and my ankle get better. And for me, it was a really big deal. So I got really, really interested. I said thank you to the ballet company, but not right now. And I started chiropractic just a few weeks after. So
That is so cool. And, I don't think people even understand. A lot of people don't understand, as many do, that the type of physical stress that dancers not even ballet for sure, but other dancers, it is. I mean, people look at them and go, oh my God, they must be in phenomenal shape, which they are, but they're also hurting. I mean, it's a strenuous sport.
It is. It's very demanding, and it's something that's just like with any sports, you build up over the years. And so chiropractic is not a big thing. It was not at least a big thing at the time in France. So I had never heard of it. I had never been adjusted until my late teens. So imagine the damage when you reach 18 years old without having been adjusted, being an athlete. So yeah, 100%.
That's cool. That's a great journey.
Good journeys.
A great journey. So then your journey after school, I mean, obviously, Sebastian, you went to, it was planned with both of you to go to Portugal, yeah? And
yeah.
And then, you guys went to Portugal and spent 6 years. So we've got a Swede, and we've got a French woman in Portugal. You can't get more eclectic than that, And I don't know how many people speak Swedish in Portugal and how many speak French, but they certainly do speak Portuguese, right? How was it? How'd that work for you guys? And what was it like practicing in Portugal?
That was, I still remember the first few weeks of sitting down in front of patients and having literally no idea what they were talking about. No idea. And because people in Portugal are so kind and so nice, we would just try to, in our broken Portuguese, we would try to tell them about what was going on with their spine and their care plan. And they would just say yes and yes and yes. And actually for months, we used to say the word spine completely wrong. And everybody would say yes to everything until somebody finally stood up and said, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wow.
And we were talking about some sort of pillar, or they were probably wondering what the heck I was talking about. So it was definitely challenging at the beginning, but eventually we went through it.
And did you learn Portuguese? Are you both fluent in Portuguese?
Yeah, now.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
we are.
Most of our patients were Portuguese, yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
That's impressive. Gosh. Okay. So you're in Portugal. So did you love practicing there? Like, was it, and it was a little challenging at first, but because I want to know, the next question is going to be like, what made you decide to leave?
I mean, so for us, it was, so I got into surfing, right? So when I lived in Barcelona, I got into surfing and I really liked it. So basically why we went to Portugal, I basically just went on Google, where can I find the best waves in Europe, right? And they said Portugal. And so because I graduated before, I told Clemence I would go there and I would set up a practice. And then you come and then we build it into something bigger. And so basically it was the surf that gave me Portugal, or it led me to Portugal. And being around Mark and all these seminars where it's like you have your hands and you can basically go wherever you want. Mm-hmm. And that's how we got into it. And why we kind of got like left Portugal is because of family. Because we are Swede and a French with family in France and Sweden living at the end of in Europe, right? So we decided we need to be closer to family.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a really good point, Sebastian, because Mary and I have always told, when people come and say, where should I practice or what should I do? I mean, we've been in the game for quite a while, right? And we always say the same thing. Where do you want to live? Like it's not about where to practice. It's where you want to live. Where are you going to be the happiest? And if you're going to be happy there, like surfing and doing that, then go there, because when you're happy, you're going to be your light bulb will be on, your energy is going to be high, and you're going to be attracting people to you no matter what you do, So it's really about where do you want, and I just want to honor both of you that, to be able to move from Portugal, you had a very successful practice there, owned a building, right? You owned your office, right? And to be able to just kind of pick up and move because you want to get to one of the areas. Obviously, you're going to go to France where Clemence's family is, right? And be close to one of your families at least. And, to do that, it takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of strength to be able to just kind of just leave something successful and have to do a pit stop along the way. Right. And let's get into that, because I alluded to that in the introduction. Right, Mary? We talked about, that you went from Portugal and you're in Spain on your way to France. Tell our viewers why you made this stop in France. In Spain. And you couldn't have picked a more beautiful place than Mallorca. But people would just love to go and spend 2 years there. Right. But what is it on your map that's having that happen?
I mean, there is two things. So the law in France, because they implement a law, when you graduate from Spain, you need to work 2 years in Spain to be able to get a license in France. And since we graduated both in Spain, but we went straight to Portugal, we never did that. So that's the first reason. And then the second reason.
Wait, hold on. So what you're saying is, Clemence, you are French. And because I'm in my mind, I'm going sacre bleu. I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool.
No, but you're absolutely right. So, it's funny because we, being Swedish and French, we see Europe as our playground. And so Europe, obviously, it's very easy to move in Europe. If you want to travel from one country to another, you don't need visas. Things are easy in Europe. Now, when it comes to chiropractic, it's very different than the States, because chiropractic is very different country to country and has different rules country to country. In some countries, it's not even legal or not regulated. So every country is very different. And in the case of France, they ask, if you graduated from Spain, they ask for you to do a few years in the country where you graduated before being able to go back to France.
So, Mary, hold on, if you don't mind, Mary, I want to just kind of follow this track. But if you graduate from a school in England, do you have to stay in England for 2 years? If you graduate from a school in wherever else, in Wales, which is part of UK anyways, but do you have to practice there for 2 years, or are they just trying to have people go to the school in France?
That's a very good point. The official reason why we have issues going back to France is because chiropractic is not regulated in Spain, meaning that chiropractic is not it's not like in the States.
There's no law. There's no law.
Because of the law, exactly. So they asked us to do that experience in Spain before being able to come back to France. Now, the unofficial version is that obviously you have two schools in France. one in Paris, one in the south. I actually started in the French school in Toulouse, in the south of France, before switching to Madrid. And these schools back in 2010, 2015, they saw a massive amount of people moving to Barcelona College, to Madrid College, looking for something a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So looking for philosophy, different techniques, to have a bigger exposure to different things. And I guess that's when they panicked and they implemented that law. So that's also one of the reasons why I believe it's complicated to go back to court.
So all it's going to take is to have a politician in France have their child choose to go to chiropractic school outside of France, and they either have to spend 2 years away from home. That will probably change the law. Someone who's up there, right, and say, okay, no, my kid's coming back here. It's just interesting. So they're basically saying you need 2 years so you're safe enough to come back and take care of people in France, right? And just interesting. So you're spending your 2 years now in Mallorca.
Yeah.
So because there is a justice and there's a justice in the universe brought us to Mallorca to spend these 2 years, which is a terrible place to be, by the way. Very funny place. It's an island in the Mediterranean. It's very, very sad. So,
insufferable, right?
It is insufferable. So yeah, that's.
So you've been there how long?
You've been here since January?
Yeah, so we are with Mark now, so like Mark basically told us, hey, we want to do this project, and how he wanted to slow down a bit. And so everything just came together for us. We were talking, let's move to France. And in 2 weeks, we took the decision. Okay, let's just leave,
Wow.
So we are with Mark now, this was the second reason why we decided, okay, now is the moment. Because for us to work with Mark has been my mentor and like a second part of my whole chiropractic school. It's incredible to be working with someone like that who has done so much for chiropractic. Yeah. And the experience we're having is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And for our viewers, if you don't know, Mark Hudson is an American, but he was also lived around the world. I think he speaks 3 or 4 languages. And he went to school in Texas. I think he went to Parker, and he ended up at DE, Dynamic Essentials, and just got turned on to the bigger picture of chiropractic, and went to Spain, and he's been practicing in Mallorca. And he was in Spain before, a lot of people got there. And he runs Chiro Europe, him and his wife, Lynn. And they have just a beautiful, huge, great practice on the island of Mallorca. That difficult place to live, because you've got water all around you. The food is incredible. I mean, it's just so hard to live there. And he's been in Mallorca for I don't know how many years, 20 years, 30 years. I really don't know. Quite a while. And boom.
It's like 30 years patients who come for him. And there is like 300 of them every month who has been with him for 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just great. It's great. That's crazy though. What a journey, huh?
It has
Go, Clemence.
It has been kind of full circle for us, because we met at Chiro Europe, which is the event, the seminar that Mark runs. So Sebastian and I met there. Mark has been our mentor throughout our chiropractic school years. He really, this is the person really who brought us to think the way we think and to breathe and live chiropractic the way we do. So when we had that opportunity to go to Mallorca and to not only see the practice like we usually do from the outside, but to be in the practice, that was just a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah.
Wow. It's it's like, it kind of shows me how connected you both are, because only people who are truly connected have things like line up that way, where they just look easy and flowy. And you look back at this and be like, yeah, like how perfect was that you had to be in Spain for 2 years, and that just the experience you're getting now and the connection with Mark and Lynn. And it's like from me listening to the story, it's like, good job. Like, good job planning all of that.
Couldn't have planned it any better, right?
No, it's like.
I had a crazy part of it. My chiropractor in Sweden was turned on by Mark, and that's how I got into chiropractic.
The second chiropractor.
Yeah, the second chiropractor. Yeah. And Mark turned them on, and they were like full on, and it changed my whole family's life. That's great. So it's like, this is what's like the more, also like, if you want to evolve it that way, that's like the freaky part.
I love it.
I think the universe provides. And if you're listening and you just follow it and listen and really listen and look and see it, it's like a beautiful journey.
My question that comes up out of all that is just about, and this is more about just your relationship, right? Because I think we have a lot of viewers who they have a partner, or, whatever that looks like. They have a partner that they're in practice with, right? And maybe even not even in practice, but a partner around that, right? And obviously, there's got to be some kind of to keep your balance with each other, right? And have this symbiotic relationship, to be able to do what you guys are doing. It's not like, you went home, Sebastian, and said, hey, guess what, Clemence, pack your bag, we're going to Spain. And Clemence said, well, first I'm going over, it's like you have to be in unison, right? And same thing in practice. So I'd love for you guys to speak to that, like, as a couple in chiropractic, how you keep that balance, even to not just to move, but even in practice in Portugal. And then as you're doing your journey of where you're going to.
I have to laugh and I have to smile, and I know you do too, because our daily life is very rock and roll, very, very much rock and roll. We're two very fiery, feisty people, and there's no such thing as balance in our life and in our relationship. Now, I believe that in practice, it took us a while to find our place. Yeah. And I think that's something that we didn't quite reach even by the time we left the practice. It's not a goal that we reached, because it is difficult to know your place, to know your tasks, to know it is your chiropractic practice is a business, right? And so in every business, you cannot have two CEOs. You need to find your maybe your balance in there, and that's the tough part, 100%. And now I think that our strength is that we both see the world with our chiropractic goggles, and we're aligned. We have the same values. We have the same aspirations. We're in tune with our goals, and that's not something that happened randomly or by mistake. Again, Mark and his wife Lynn guided us also on that journey, being able to set up goals and to both be very much aligned with that. So I think that is definitely our strength. But the daily life, it's 100% rock and roll, very much.
But when you say rock and roll, what's that mean? Are you guys like, each other with guitars, or are you like in unison playing music together, doing your thing?
Yes, it is very much, there is no filter. We tell each other things in a very raw way, and sometimes that can very quickly escalate. But we're always with love and with respect and with the chiropractic goggle. So it always ends up pretty well.
In other words, it sounds like you don't sugarcoat anything. It's just like let's just be real and honest, and let's not filter anything.
Absolutely.
Right? And unfiltered.
Absolutely. And when people ask us, how do you do work together? I always say it's way better to have your life partner, your love that is here with you, rather than a random coworker, right? Because at least you can say things and you can work together in that way. So yeah, I think that's.
So then I have a question then. So tell us, because this is like this is perfect. I want to hear, like, what are some of the challenges, which I think one of them is going to be like when things maybe are stressful or heated up, or there's something happening where, like you said, there can only be one CEO, because Ron and I practice together at periods too, where you have to figure out how to dance together without things crumbling, obviously. So how do you make that work? Like when there is stuff that comes up, do you say, okay, you do this, I'll do that? Does one person just take the reins and say, move out of my way? How do you do that?
I would say normally, like in general, I think we know what we're good at. Mm-hmm. I know what she's good at. I know what I'm good at. And in the beginning, like, we were a little bit like, I want to do this, I want to do this. But then as time evolved, we learned, like, okay, she's Like I'm really bad at writing, right? Like even my mom in Swedish says like, you write horrible, right? And because of the dyslexia, right? And so I know the communication with the patients in emails and everything, it's her, because otherwise they come back the next visit like, what is this email? I don't understand anything, right? So it became natural over the years. We know what we're good at and we know what we're good at dealing with. And like if someone would come and they would be upset or there would be something, I would deal with that by talking, because that would be my strong part. Right. When we had some patient being like super depressed and they just had an episode, I would be able to deal with that and better than Clemence, and then she would be better to do and it just evolved into that where we kind of know each other, so we know what we're good at and what we're not as good at.
Yeah. So you play to each other's strengths, obviously, right?
Yes.
And that's so important, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
I do know this. I mean, something I learned in practice, and just not even in practice, just in our life, you know. I learned that with Mary and I, how we were able to navigate it. We would compromise. She wanted the dog, I wanted the cat. We compromised. We got the dog. It's just kind of how it works, But it is, and life is a compromise. But I think it's really good that you see that the balance, whoever's stronger, and who has those strengths. And I think our viewers need to know this. I mean, you were in a short while in practice in Portugal, exploding, bought a building, did all this stuff, and then literally just kind of left it. I think you still have the building there. So if anyone's looking for a building out there in the universe in beautiful Portugal, there's, in fact, I might know somebody, a good friend of ours is moving to Portugal to practice. And so I might have them get in contact with you. But it's just, I'm inspired by both of you, and to be able to work together, have that rock and roll fieriness and make that happen. It's just so cool. We're winding down, and every one of our Life by Life West, we always ask our viewers 2 questions. And so we're not our viewers, but our participants, the people we're interviewing, 2 questions. So Mary, you want to start?
I'll ask the first question.
All right.
Okay, Clemence, I'm going to start with you. And just whatever answer comes to your mind and heart. So I want you now where you are, with all your knowledge and wisdom that you have now, if you could go back and talk to Clemence just starting chiropractic college, what advice would you give her?
I would tell her to go see as many practices, as many chiropractors, as many chiropractic patients as possible, to get exposed to as many different philosophies, ideas, techniques as possible, and to very quickly filter them out and follow one thing, because it's very easy to do a lot of many things, but it's very difficult to do one thing very well. That's what I would tell her.
Love it. Great advice. Okay, Sebastian, your turn. What advice would you give yourself if you could go back?
I mean, I would be on the same track as Clemence, but it would be like, when you're a student, do as much as you can, like into chiropractic, like really put your hook into chiropractic, read a philosophy, get exposed to everything. Even if you see some chiropractor who does nothing that you think is in your values, go see that chiropractor, and then go see someone that is in your values. So you get exposed to everything, and you can know, okay, this is what I want to do with chiropractic. And then you just follow that line down the road.
That's great. That is great.
I love that. I love that you just said that, like, even if it's some way that you don't want to practice, just go there, because you get to see possibilities, right?
Yeah.
Great advice.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. I'm going to ask the second question. Sebi, I'm going to start with you since Clemence, you were the first on the last question. So Sebi, now you're Dr. Sebastian right now, and now you get to go back and speak to Dr. Sebastian, who just graduated. What piece of advice would you give to that Sebastian?
We talked about this the other day. What I would have done is to be more assured when it came to certain part in my practice, the financial part, and the certainty to tell people, this is what you need. Chiropractic will change your life, and not bulge in on their ideas and philosophy, what they think is correct. They came to you for your help. And I would have told myself, no, you need to be stronger and just, this is what you do and stick to it.
Nice.
Wow.
Clemence, same question.
I would tell myself exactly what Mark, our mentor and now big boss, told us. Remember, it's as simple as that, right? Because I think it's very easy when you graduate, you have that data set of philosophy, of technique, but through the student lens. And all of a sudden you're thrown into the real life with real people, with real complaints and real challenges and the money part of running an office and everything. But it is really as simple as that. Focus and go back to what's really important, deliver good chiropractic adjustments, and to really focus on that.
Nice.
And not worry about everything.
Boom.
Great answers.
Phenomenal answers.
It wraps it up. Wow, that's beautiful. Well, I got to tell you guys, I mean, for both, I'm sure for me and Mary, that, really it is inspiring to talk to you and to see what you've done, but also just to see how you follow your hearts and you just are innately led to where you're going to be going to, and you're willing to do whatever you need to do to get to where your destination will be. Right. And that's, getting back to France. And I really honor you for that, because I think it's so important to not just say, okay, I just want to go, but you're doing it with heart, you're doing it with soul, and the path just opens up. And I think that Mary, I think you'd agree, the path opens up to those, who are available for it to open up, right? It's not always that easy for people, right? And people go, why not me? But, you got to become available to it, right?
Yeah. And we will, I'm putting it on the record, we will come visit you in France, because we were just there last month, Ron, and we had a phenomenal time. So we will come visit you.
We're rejuvenated now in France. We've been to France other times, but this last time kind of said we could always just miss France. But this last time we had such a great time. I was like, we got to get back there. It was like
we want to bring our grandkids.
A different lens. But I want to see your parents' castle, but we'll talk about that at another time. We'll talk about that.
For another.
Just for our viewers, really quickly before we sign off, I'm going to tell the story that I heard in a car where we were in India driving to the airport or something like that. I don't remember, but something like that. And I could get this wrong. It doesn't matter, but the gist will be there. They're driving over to go see Clemence's family. And Subby, you said that you kind of fell asleep, whatever, and you woke up. And all of a sudden, they're going through these woods, and there's this river, and over it, and then there's a castle. And you're like, "Oh my God, her parents own a castle." And anyways, we'll come back to that in another story.
I want to hear that story now. So,
well, you're going to hear it later.
Okay.
I promise you. But hey, everybody, thank you. Hey, first of all, thank you. Sebastian and Clemence, thanks for being with Mary and I today and sharing your heart and sharing that. I know it's late right now in Spain. Maybe midnight, past midnight, but we appreciate you having the time and making the time to be with us. As always, Mary, it's such a pleasure to interview people like Sebastian and Clemence. It's just lovely. I know, a full heart.
My favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. And to our viewers, thank you. Thanks for checking in with us. Thanks for sharing these. There's a lot of people who are thinking about making a move, that people who've been talking about it and not necessarily moving. Sometimes it's just hearing something that can give them, the impetus to make that happen. But certainly, when you have young practitioners who are looking to make changes and things to happen, these two are great examples of following your heart, listening to the voice within and moving with it and being successful in what you do. But we thank you for sharing this. We thank you for tuning in week after week. We release the Life by Life West every other week. The opposite week, we drop a Life West leadership line. And, our viewership is so high, but it's not because of us. It's because of you sharing this. So thank you so much for that. And just, until we come back at you for Clemence, Sebastian, Mary, and myself, we'll bid you adieu. And just keep hugging those around you. Keep loving everyone that you can love, because this world needs a lot more of it. Don't forget the power of the chiropractic adjustment. Keep it simple and know that everyone we meet are much more powerful, most likely, than they were ever led to believe. So until we come back at you, take care, and we'll see you next time on our Life by Life West.